BC. You're listening to CJSF 90.1 FM online at www.cjsf.ca, broadcasting from Burnaby, British Columbia at Simon Fraser University. And this is KPW with another edition of This Week in BC Minor League Sports. Now, during this half-hour program today, we'll recap action from the Telus Cup, which is the National Major Midget Hockey Championship that took place last week. So lots of action to cover in this weekly sports program this morning. Now, if you're new to this program, just to let you know, we don't do any Major League sports. So, yes, I know that Major League Baseball is here, and the NBA and NHL playoffs are already in the second round. And also, there was a big scandal last week in the NBA regarding one of their owners, which needed the commissioner to get involved. So I've been following all of those stories because of personal interest in each of these leagues, and I've actually spent more time watching, listening, and reading up on all these stories in the past week. But I won't be discussing any of these on this show because this program is strictly focused on sports action that isn't talked about on mainstream media. So I'm not gonna spend any time talking about the NHL playoffs or the NBA scandal from last week. So we're focused this week on the National Midget Championship in hockey that again took place last week as 6 teams traveled to Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan for the 2014 Telus Cup tournament to decide the Major Midget Hockey Championship for men for this season. So I'm just going to get to that right now. And just to let you know, with the Telus Cup, the teams spent a week there in Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan, with the championship being won on Sunday. But to get to the championships, you had to first of all survive the round robin part of the tournament and make it into the into the semifinals. And how it works is this: there are 6 teams. Each team plays once against each other during the round robin for 5 straight days. So it goes Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So no break in between. And gosh, can you imagine playing 5 games in 5 days for hockey? It's it's unheard of obviously in the professional leagues, but for the Telus Cup with the under 18, because these players are between 15 to 17 years of age, so they are under 18. So with these players to have to go through the round robin part of the tournament, 5 games in 5 days, that's definitely a very grueling part of the schedule for them. Basically, as mentioned, you had to survive the round robin or the preliminary round to make it into the playoffs. So each team will play once against each other in the round robin for 5 straight days, and with 6 teams in a tournament. As mentioned, each team will play every day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday in the round robin. And then the top 4 teams advance to the semifinals on Saturday, and then the week will wrap up with the bronze medal and gold medal games on Sunday. So all of this took place last week. Now, the Pacific region's representatives in this year's Telus Cup, of course, are the Okanagan Rockets, who were champions of the BC Major Midget League. We've been covering that league. We had covered that league during the winter time, and Okanagan was the top team in BC. And then the Rockets then won the Pacific Regional Championships against the Alberta League champions to advance to the Telus Cup tournament. Now, as we mentioned in last week's show, the Okanagan Rockets then began their quest for the national championship by rallying from a 3-1 deficit for a 3-3 tie against the Grenadier de Chateauguay on Monday, April 21st. So that was a team from Quebec that they were facing. As mentioned, Okanagan had to come back from a 3-1 deficit in the second period on Monday to earn the tie. And then again, there's no breaks in between games. So on Tuesday, the Rockets were back on the ice again, and Okanagan took on the host team, the Moose Jaw Generals, on Tuesday. And again, the Rockets fell behind early for the second straight day, because just 3:09 into the game, Moose Jaw got on the scoreboard when Regan Nagy scored on the power play to make it 1-0 for the Generals. 3 minutes later, on another Moose Jaw power play, Ben Verrill scored to make it 2-0. So 2 early penalties taken by the Rockets, and both times the Moose Jaw Generals scored. So Okanagan was down by 2 goals after the opening period. Now, in the second period, with the Rockets on a power play of their own, Tanner Wisnowski scored to cut the deficit to 2-1. And at the midway point of the second, the Generals scored the third power play goal of the game after a too many men on the ice penalty against the Rockets. So it was 3-1 for Moose Jaw, and all the penalties obviously hurting the Rockets. Just 46 seconds after Moose Jaw had taken the 3-1 lead, though, Tanner Wisnowski got his second goal of the game to make it 3-2. So the Rockets still had some life, and then Okanagan tied the game at the 13:50 mark in the period when Corey Santoro scored on a power play to make it 3-3. Now, in the third period of this game, there was no scoring, with Okanagan outshooting the Generals 10-7. But again, no scoring in the final period, and the game ended in a 3-3 tie. It was the Rockets' second straight tie to open the tournament. And all 3 of Moose Jaw's goals came on the power play, as they went 3 for 6 with the man advantage. So obviously, all of the penalties that the Rockets had taken, came back to hurt them. Brandon Berry, though, had a solid night in goal for Okanagan, making 33 saves for the Rockets. Then on Wednesday, all of the teams were back in action again, and the Rockets took on the Prince Albert Mintos, who had already won 2 national championships over the last 8 years. So Prince Albert is one of the best teams in the country when it comes to major midget hockey. Now, in fact, the Mintos had not lost in the last 16 games at the National Midget Championships, a streak that included 15 wins in a row and then a tie in their last game. So, that's pretty impressive. A 16 game undefeated streak coming into action against the Okanagan Rockets on Wednesday. Now, in this game, the Rockets outshot the Mintos 20-11 through the first 2 periods, but Connor Ingram, the Prince Albert goaltender, kept the Rockets off the scoreboard. So a terrific performance for Ingram, the Prince Albert goalie. Brandon Berry in the Okanagan Nets also had a shutout through 2 periods. So a scoreless tie after 40 minutes between Okanagan and Prince Albert. But the Mintos actually came out and broke the shutout 53 seconds into the third period. They went up 1-0. So for the third straight game, Okanagan fell behind. But the Rockets tied it up at 13:20 of the final period when Jen Bryson scored an even strength goal to make it 1-1. So that's actually the way the game would end, a 1-1 tie. And that was the Rockets' third straight draw to open the tournament. Again, Brandon Berry, the Rockets goaltender, was solid. He finished with 23 saves, but again, no wins after 3 games for the Okanagan Rockets to show for their efforts. And again, as mentioned, no off days in the tournament, as all teams went at it again on Thursday the 24th. For the Okanagan Rockets, they they were obviously looking for their first win, so they took on the Halifax McDonald's. Still looking for that elusive first victory of the tournament after the 3 straight ties. And of course, the Rockets would hope to avoid falling behind and having to play catch up, which was a pattern that they'd seen in each of the first 3 games. Good news for the Rockets this time, because the trends were reversed as Okanagan scored first, finally, when Liam Finley got his first goal of the tournament with 4:07 left in the opening period. And then with 56 seconds left in the opening stanza, Kobe Oishi scored the Rockets' second goal to make it 2-0. So the Rockets were probably relieved to finally have a lead, because it was like the first time all tournament that they've managed to be ahead of their opposition. So 2-0 after the first 20 minutes. Now Halifax got an early goal in the second period, just 30 seconds in, and to cut the deficit to 2-1. But Okanagan got that one back when Liam Finley scored his second of the game with, at the 9:14 mark. So just about midway through the second period to make it 3-1, and the Rockets made it 4-1 with 5 minutes left in the period, with Lyndon Hora putting the puck in the net. So 4-1 after 2 periods for Okanagan. Now, some interesting fact about that fourth goal by Lyndon Hora for the Rockets, because it was the first goal by Okanagan in a tournament not to include Tana Wisnowski, who had either scored or assisted on the Rockets' first 9 goals of the tournament. So some interesting fact about that, because Tana Wisnowski had been carrying the load offensively for the Rockets, so it's finally good. I guess finally good to see that other players were getting involved in putting the puck in the net or setting up the play to put the Rockets in position to score. But anyway, it's 4-1 after 2 periods against Halifax. So they were looking good because looking good. They've broken out of their scoring funk, so to speak, and also they have managed to take a lead and put less pressure on their goaltender. But after that, there's some controversy in this game, believe it or not, because as I mentioned, through 2 periods, it was 4-1. The Rockets goaltender Brendan Barry had allowed just 1 goal on 18 shots that he faced. And with the 4-1 lead, and as mentioned, every team is playing every day in the tournament, so no rest for the players. I guess for the skaters, they do have a rest in the sense that their shifts are a minute long or 45 seconds long, and then they go to the bench. But for the goaltenders out there, they're playing in goal for all 60 minutes. So no rest for Brendan Barry so far in the tournament, and with a 4-1 lead, the coaching staff for the Rockets, knowing it was a long tournament, benched Barry for the third period, giving him some rest for the next game, so giving him kind of a breather. But that move backfired, unfortunately, for Okanagan, because the Rockets put in Reed Kilburn, their other goalie, for the third period, and Kilburn had a very strong season for the Rockets during the regular season in the BC Major Midget League, but had been used as a backup and hadn't really seen any action for a while. So he went in there for the third period, and unfortunately for the Rockets, Halifax poured it on against him, because Patrick Stewart scored on a power play for Halifax at the 6:06 mark of the third, and it was 4-2 for Okanagan, so now down to a 2-goal deficit. And then the McDonald's, the Halifax McDonald's, made it 4-3 5.5 minutes later, so it's down to a 1-goal game, again at 4-3. The Rockets, they were still in good shape. They're ahead by 1 goal with less than 5 minutes left. But with 4:14 remaining, Dylan Boucher scored Halifax's third goal of the period. The third goal against Kilburn coming in relief in net, and suddenly the game was tied 4-4. So talk about a momentum swing there. So 3 straight goals by Halifax to make it 4-4, and there was just 4:14 remaining in regulation. So could the Rockets be headed for their 4th straight tie to open the tournament? The answer was actually no, because less than a minute after Boucher's tying goal, Ethan Marsh put Halifax ahead 5-4, beating Kilburn. So the McDonald's actually outshot the Rockets 16-10 in that final period and pulled out the come-from-behind victory. So 5-4 was the final, a heartbreaking loss for the Rockets, who dropped to 0-1-3 after 4 games. So no wins, 1 loss, and 3 ties after the first 4 days of the tournament. Again, Okanagan was ahead 4-1 after 2 periods, and you figured they would hang on to win, but unfortunately they lost, giving up 4 goals in a 10-minute span in the third period, and allowing the winning goal to be scored with 3:23 left in regulation. So that was a big loss for the Rockets. But again, the coaching staff knew that if they were going to win the championship, they would have to play like 7 straight days, and asking a goaltender to play 7 straight days without any break, without any rest, that would be asking for too much. So they made the call to give Brandon Barry, their goaltender, a rest for the third period, and it backfired on them. But there was still one more game to play in the round-robin portion of the tournament, because on Friday, again, the last day of the round-robin, the Rockets faced the Toronto Young Nationals. Again, the Rockets hadn't won a game yet, and they needed to beat Toronto to secure a spot in the semifinals. And the Rockets came out firing in this one, with Lyndon Hora scoring at the midway point of the opening period. 24 seconds later, Brandon Wagner scored for the Rockets, and they were ahead 2-0. The Nationals got on the scoreboard with 6 minutes to go in the first period. They cut the deficit to 2-1. In the second period, the Rockets scored 3 goals in a 5.5-minute span to go up 5-1, and actually it was within the first 5.5 minutes of that period. Jake Krisky, Tanner Campbell, and Tyson Jost all scoring for Okanagan, so it was 5-1 after 2 periods. With the Rockets needing a win in this one, they kept Brandon Barry in goal for the entire game, and the Skaters didn't have a letdown in front of him, because Carter Hikichi scored for the Rockets just 2 minutes and 41 seconds into the third period, making it 6-1. And the Rockets just poured it on in that final 20 minutes. And in fact, Okanagan had 24 shots on goal in that third period alone. And they scored 6 times. And they actually outshot the Nationals 24-7 in that third period. So the final score was 11-2 for Okanagan, as they really broke out of their scoring slump. So the Rockets earned their first win of the tournament. And again, the final score 11-2 against the Toronto Young Nationals on the final day of the round-robin portion of the tournament. 4 Rockets players scored twice, and 12 recorded at least 1 point. So a total team effort, and also a dominant victory for Okanagan, and they really needed that one. So the round robin wrapped up on Friday, and the Rockets qualified for the semifinals because they finished 4th in the standings with a record of 1 win, 1 loss, and 3 ties. The Prince Albert Mintos, the top team during the round robin, went undefeated with a record of 3-0-2. Toronto, the team that got blown out by Okanagan on Friday, actually finished 2nd with a record of 3 wins and 2 losses. The Grenadier, the Chateauguay, were 3rd with a record of 2 wins, 1 loss, and 2 ties. The other 2 teams, Halifax and Moose Jaw, were eliminated from the semifinals. So with the Rockets finishing 4th, they took on the first place team, Prince Albert, in the semifinals on Saturday the 26th. Now, no rest for any of the teams, because the winner moves on to the medal games on Sunday. Now, just going to take some time to do some quick updates on what's happening locally, some free events or public service announcements, if you will, before we go back to the hockey action. But on Tuesday, May the 6th, the Burnaby Public Library is having a workshop called Employment Law in their Metrotown branch. That's from 7 p.m. to 8:30. Again, that's on Tuesday, May the 6th, from 7 p.m. to 8:30 at the Metrotown branch. The Burnaby Public Library, in partnership with the People's Law School, is holding this free workshop on employment law. So know your rights and responsibilities as an employee in a non-unionized workplace. A lawyer specializing in employment law will talk about your rights when applying for a job, working overtime, getting stat holidays, how to handle job termination, and also how to deal with workplace harassment as well. Find out how you can protect yourself if you have a problem on a job. Registration is required for this free workshop, and you will register by phoning the Metrotown branch 604-436-5400. That's 604-436-5400, or register online at the Burnaby Public Library website. Their website address is www.bpl.bc.ca. That's www.bpl.bc.ca. Meanwhile, at the Richmond Library on Sunday, May the 4th, there is an interesting event at the Brickhouse branch called Intergenerational Women's Writing Workshop, happening from 1:30 to 3:30 p.m. So this is a writing workshop led by interdisciplinary artist Margaret Dragu, who has won multiple awards for her work. Multi-generation women pairs will go through writing exercises to get their creative juices flowing before they write about what each would like to teach or wish for the other. Participants will have the opportunity to share their finished writing in Create and Learn, which is an online publication tool hosted by the Richmond Public Library. And for more information about this workshop, please go to www.yourlibrary.ca. That's www.yourlibrary.ca, and sign up is required for this. You may call them at 604-231-6413. That's 604-231-6413, or simply visit the Brickhouse branch and sign up on the second floor. Once again, this is happening on Sunday, May 4th at 1:30 p.m. So that's tomorrow. So a couple of interesting events at your local public library. This one was in the Metrotown branch on Thursday this past week on resumes and cover letters, which would have been kind of interesting, but unfortunately I didn't have a chance to go there. I had to work and I couldn't sneak out to attend. I mean, not that I need any advice on the subject, but I think it would be interesting to check it out because I used to teach students how to write resumes and cover letters when I taught English as a second language several years ago. But I guess it would be interesting to know what experts say now about resumes because of all the social media that is around us today. For example, I heard a friend tell me last week that nowadays you don't even put your home address on your resume anymore. That's something that's new to me because I guess if you think about that, it kind of makes sense. After all, who mails anymore, right? So I guess it's acceptable to just have a city, province, and postal code on your resume. My friend was also telling me you don't really need anything that's really old on there on your resume. Like you just need like 10 to 12 years of solid work history on your resume. So if you think about it, it's 2014 right now. So I guess nothing before 2002. Or so. Something else like don't overbold things, otherwise bolding stuff would lose impact and so on. So lots of neat little tricks to pay attention to now that I think about it. But I had another friend look at my resume recently. I want to say back in January, so about 4 months ago. She told me don't put anything unnecessary on your resume like references upon request. Or references available upon request, because that's too obvious. So cut out anything that's unnecessary or too obvious. So just some tips there. And another topic, if you're looking to get some volunteer experience, you can also check out the City of Burnaby website at www.burnaby.ca because they have some opportunities for everyone. Because, for example, you can help out seniors as a way to I guess give back to the community. If you have a clean driving record, you can become a volunteer driver, for example, because they're always looking for drivers to provide transportation to and from events for seniors or people with disabilities who are unable to use transit. So lots of opportunities can be found on www.burnaby.ca. So if you can check that out if you're interested in some volunteer experience. Now back to This Week in BC Minor League Sports with KPW here on CJSF 90.1 FM. As mentioned before the announcements, the Okanagan Rockets were facing the Prince Albert Mintos in the semifinals on Saturday for the right to play in the Telus Cup gold medal game, which will be the championships for major midget hockey in this country. Now, unfortunately for Okanagan, the Mintos scored twice in the first period to go up 2-0 before Okanagan got on the scoreboard with 5 seconds left in the opening stanza, so 2-1 after 20 minutes. Prince Albert got the only goal in the second period on the power play and had a 3-1 advantage after 40 minutes. Now in the third period, the Mintos had actually took a 4-1 lead just 47 seconds in. So a crushing goal to make it 4-1 before the Rockets scored 2 power play goals with Tyson Jost and Tanner Campbell getting those 2 tallies. It was 4-3 with 13 minutes remaining in regulation, but it actually wasn't meant to be for the Rockets because Prince Albert then got the next 2 goals to wrap up the 6-3 victory. So the Prince Albert Mintos moved on to the Telus Cup finals for a chance to win the 3rd gold medal in 9 years. The Rockets, meanwhile, had to settle for the bronze medal game on Sunday. They will be facing the Toronto Young Nationals, the same team that they blew up 11-2 on Friday, just 2 days earlier. So with the bronze medal on the line, you figured that Toronto definitely would be up to gain some revenge on the Rockets. And these 2 teams, the Rockets and the Toronto Young Nationals, battled through a scoreless first period before the Nationals got on the scoreboard with 2 power play goals in the last 4.5 minutes of the second period to go up 2-0. So, looked like Toronto would be on its way 2-0 after 40 minutes, especially, if you're scoring late in the period like the Toronto team did, especially on the power play, 2 late power play goals. You figured that, the opposition, in this case, the Okanagan Rockets, would feel kind of demoralized, going to the dressing room. But not the case, because the Rockets came out in the 3rd period and they broke the shutout at 6:14 of the 3rd stanza, with Lyndon Hora beating Toronto goalie Easy Benigno, and so it was 2-1 at that point. I guess I have to apologize for the pronunciation of these names. Anyway, so the good news is the Rockets scored to break the shutout for the Toronto goalie Benigno. I guess is his name. I can't pronounce it properly, but it was 2-1 at that point. 6 minutes into the 3rd period. Toronto was called for a hooking penalty, though, with just over 5 minutes to go with the same score at 2-1, and the Rockets capitalized with Liam Finley scoring on the power play at the 15:10 mark, and the game was tied 2-2 with 4:50 remaining. Now, because this is the bronze medal game, there's overtime after regulation if both teams are tied. So if they end up tied after 3 periods, they'll be looking forward to overtime. But before that, they still had the last 4 minutes to play, and the Rockets were called for a late penalty with 3 minutes to go in regulation, but they killed that off, and the 2 teams went into overtime. And this one ended pretty early because Lyndon Hora scored the game winner at the 3:28 mark of the extra period to give the Rockets the 3-2 victory. It's the first medal for the Rockets in their first appearance at Canada's AAA Midget Hockey Championship. Definitely a great feat because teams from BC have won just 1 gold medal in the tournament's 40-year history. So congratulations to the Okanagan Rockets for winning the bronze medal. I know they were going for gold, but still a great feat for Okanagan, especially the way they they open the tournament, going winless in the first 4 games. So again, good job for the Okanagan Rockets. Meanwhile, the Telus Cup gold medal game was between the Grenadier, the Chateauguay, and the Prince Albert Mintos. That game also went into overtime as Prince Albert won 4-3 in the 3rd overtime period to take home the gold medal. Prince Albert went 5-0-2 in the tournament this year. Then, of course, they beat Okanagan in the semifinals, and then the Grenadier, the Chateauguay, in the gold medal finals. They ran an undefeated streak to 21 games at the national tournament. It was Prince Albert's 3rd Telus Cup championship in the last 9 seasons. So congratulations to all the teams that participated in the Telus Cup last week. Before we go, I should mention some controversy with the gold medal game as well in terms of programming on television, because all of the games during the tournament could be seen for free online on the Hockey Canada website. And TSN2 showed the gold medal game, though, on TV. Now, I mentioned that gold medal game went into 3rd overtime before Prince Albert finally won, and that was on Sunday. And on TSN2, the Anaheim-Dallas NHL playoff game was on their schedule. So hockey fans looking for Stanley Cup playoff action were stunned to see a midget hockey game on instead. So lots of angry reaction on Twitter about that. So that was a bit unfortunate, but it still doesn't take away from a great tournament as these teams battled hard for the national championship. So once again, congratulations to all the teams that participated in the Telus Cup last week. So that's actually all the time that we have for this program. Thanks for tuning in to This Week in BC Minor League Sports. We really enjoyed covering all the action for you, and we'll talk to you again next time as we have more sports in this hour. So we'll talk to you again.